What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today's Monday, October 24th, coming down here to the last week of October. A lot happened this past Thursday. As you guys know, it was the playoff matchup of El Tráfico. You had LAFC versus LA Galaxy. You already knew this game was going to have fireworks. It had everything. It had, goals, possession. The stars showed up, and then it was the final minute. Almost was gonna go to overtime, and then Chicharrongo scores the game winning goal. It was a thriller at one end, a heartbreak loss on the other side. But here to help me talk about all things LA Galaxy for this pod, we got Damian Calhoun. Damian, how you doing?
Doing all right. Can't believe this. The season. The season, at least for me, is finally over. It's been a
Yeah,
long run, but we finally made
long.
it to the end.
It's a long ass season, man. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about it the other day, and I was just um, I don't know, when did this season start? Like in March, I want to say
Yeah,
March,
it started later this year, so I think it was like in mid-March, mid to late
mid
March.
March. So
Yeah,
we've been going since March to what is it at the end of October, and then the season starts back up again in October and February. So we only got like
February.
a month or look. I know I'm complaining. And it's just my little rant. I feel blessed. Let me say I feel blessed for what we get to do, but when you're doing it, especially coming down to the end, I'm just like, man, the season is long.
Yeah, it's a lot. Then you factor in preseason. I mean, preseason is like a month and a half, maybe. So it's been probably from January, late January to October, man. That's a long run.
It is a long run. So yeah. So fortunately, the season comes, but yeah, it had me thinking the other day because I was like, man, this season just seems so long. It's literally the whole year, like the whole calendar year. Like
Yeah,
it feels
but
like it. And then the World Cup too. It just, you know. But yeah. But anyways, yeah, let's talk about this game because I had you on Twitter Spaces and you guessed the correct score. I think you even told me in the press box it was 3-2 when or you said when it was, I think it was 2-2. You turned around and told me, like, then I said it was gonna finish 3-2, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. But let's talk about the game, the atmosphere. What do you think? Because these games never disappoint.
yeah.
I always told people, like, if you can get a ticket. I even think I said on Twitter Spaces, ask for this as your Christmas present because, man, it's definitely worth the price of the ticket. But talk to me. What were all the thoughts, the whole experience, the game, and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, this probably seemed to be like the most hyped up. You could feel the intensity in the stadium for this game here. I know there was talk of how many Galaxy fans would be there. I thought it was a pretty good showing for the
Yeah.
Galaxy fans. They had two sections up top, and then I saw a bunch, around the stadium, like behind the goal and around. So Galaxy fans found their way in there, which you knew they would. Um, but yeah, if you've been to one in the El Tráfico in the regular season, congrats. But you've never seen one in the playoffs. Um, the only problem is, too bad this isn't a two-leg series
Yep. I
because
so wish it was. Yeah.
imagine bringing that series to Dignity Health this week with a 3-2 lead. How crazy it would be! Right? It'll be incredible. But one game that was the game of the year, pretty much. I thought going in, the winner of that game would probably win the West and also MLS Cup. And by the looks of things, I think I'm still. I mean, I know LAFC has struggled with Austin, but it might still be my pick to win the West and also take the cup as well.
Yeah, I was feeling the same way. Whoever won this game between LAFC and LA Galaxy, I was thinking the same thing. I'm LA biased, but I feel like these two, Galaxy was the hottest team in MLS going into playoffs. LAFC, obviously, the best team during the regular season. But yeah, look, I think what we saw from the other Galaxy in this game is what we've seen the last couple of games with Ricky Puig and Gaston Brugman in that midfield. Obviously, we've talked about this a number of times. Since the addition of those two guys in the midfield, the Galaxy had looked completely different. They, by any means, they to me they were winning. They were controlling. I think if we look, I have to pull up the stats, but the first 20 minutes of that game, they were controlling the game, but just with possession and everything else, up until that Denise Boanga goal came in for them. But even that, they bounced back with Samuel Grandsir right before the halftime, was tied 1-1. let's talk about that because it never felt. There are sometimes some El Traficos that they feel like they're kind of out of reach, but I never felt, even when LAFC went up, I never felt when they went up twice, I never felt that the Galaxy were completely out, obviously until the final minute. But let's talk about that. The Galaxy coming back on the Grand Sir goal, and then obviously later in the Jovic goal. But let's talk about that first half and what you saw.
Yeah, well, we got to start with the first big flashpoint of the game was the Ricky Puig and who was that? I think Murillo came together, and people
Yeah, that's a
thought
good
Ricky
point.
Puig win with the headbutt. There was really no clear view that showed the headbutt connecting. So I mean, the ref was right there, so he didn't give him a red, but he gave him a yellow. So they had to think that he saw him do the headbutt, but he didn't see it connect. I guess I don't know. But if Ricky is thrown out there, the whole game changes. But keeping him on, that was a big plus for the Galaxy there. Yeah, and then you get to go by Granzier, bad clearance, and he took it one time, settled it, and whacked it in there. Yeah, he sort of had a bigger. He sort of showed a lot for me going down the stretch of this season. He remained in the starting lineup pretty much for probably the last month and a half, probably. Yeah, that's probably his best finish I've seen him. I mean, the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, good point. Good point on bringing the Ricky Puig. I know a couple people in the press box are like, "That's an automatic red, this and that," and I was like, I don't know. I was like,
Yeah,
a
I guess.
yellow. I could see a yellow, but it was just like you also don't know what Murillo said, or there was also I would say good on Mario's part to get under Ricky Puig's skin, and then Ricky Puig, to some people, he's lucky he didn't get a red. To me, I
Yeah,
didn't see enough for him to get a red. Like I saw a little bit of the headbutt, but I think it was just the reaction of Mario just getting up in his face.
yeah,
And to me, a red card in that situation would have just I think would have killed anything of the game. Without Ricky Puig, we know how the Galaxy have played. But credit to the rest for not escalating it a little bit more. And to me, it's also the MLS playoffs. Like things like that are gonna happen. And I even went as far as saying like, did you really need to give a yellow? Like Mario went in his face. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's egging on. It's early enough in the game, but
yeah.
look, he's
I think
just
the ref had to do something when he
mhm.
saw him come together. And there were people saying, the intent. Maybe he didn't connect, but the intent was there. That should have been a straight red. But I don't know. When I looked at it several times, I mean, I thought he had his head there, and then Murillo sort of like took contact and or whatever contact and fell and flopped and fell backward.
Flopped. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think the ref did a good job of sort of de-escalating the situation. He was right there, so he had the best view of everybody, really.
Hmm. Yeah, he could hear and whatever what those guys were saying and stuff. But yeah, no, obviously good point on that. Yeah, and Grant Steer. Yeah, I like this goal. I like the reaction because to me it was gonna be someone else outside of Chicharito that was gonna have to score. For this LA Galaxy team, and for the most part, I think they played really well in that first half. I think it was just the unfortunate thing of giving that goal up in the. I think when LAFC goal scored, they just gave them too much space. They gave LAFC too much space to work things around, and obviously it was Carlos Vela on the ball, and he got the ball in perfect. I think what was it Douglas Costa ended up falling. Some people said he
Yeah,
tripped or whatever. Um, I think it's just the physicality of Denise Bouanga there. I didn't see anything dirty, anything. It was just a head-on play, and then obviously puts in the back of the net. But yeah, let's talk about a little bit more about the second half because I think the second half was more interesting for the LA Galaxy because I felt like you just mentioned Grand Surd played a good game, and then also Douglas Costa wasn't playing bad, but those two guys ended up getting subbed off. Let's talk about that, and what were your thoughts on the substitutions?
yeah. It's the subs are always a hot topic when it
Yeah.
comes to this series. I mean, you think you, you're going to make subs at some point because in a game that high intensity, very few, especially those two guys, are going to go 90 minutes. Granzier probably puts in the toughest shift, as they say, of anybody on the team. Really, the way he flies up and down the wing. And then at that point, I thought it was a good sub, just to sort of change things up a little bit. I think there was a stretch there that they had possession pretty long. I mean, pretty good spell of possession in the second half. Then they sort of lost it there. And then Greg went with the midfield changes, bringing on was it Vasquez, I think Efra, to sort of gain possession a little bit there in the midfield. And then he brought on Joveljic there, which is like his second. It's almost like a super sub there, trying to track down that final goal. But yeah, you brought him on, and then what? Minutes later, I mean, you got a goal, and then LAFC scores the winner. So it's a fine line you got to walk there with your subs. But I thought they were okay subs. I thought Granzier had a better night than Douglas did. Um, so maybe if you do that, you bring on Cabral and leave Granzier on. But I thought Granzier had pretty much put in what he could do for that night there. And then Vanny has talked about how even though we know he hasn't scored a lot, Cabral has caused trouble. Getting up and down the wing against LAFC. The last his first 2 years here. So maybe that's what he went into thinking there. I mean, sort of didn't work out, but that's just the way the game goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think the thing that was interesting to me is Kevin Cabral coming in at the 50th minute for Douglas Costa, because I think Douglas Costa, look, he could give you a little bit more, and I think. And I think bringing Kevin Cabral that early, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. Like, it's different from watching it down there, but I
Mm.
felt like Douglas Costa could have gave you a little bit more, and he was doing a decent amount of job there. And look, let me say this first. Greg Vanny, he kind of risked it with the subs, right? But it almost worked out for him up until obviously the final goal and everything. Like, his subs almost worked out for him in the sense that they were able to go into the extra time and everything like that. But I think, to me, the thing that was head scratching was Kevin Cabral coming in at the 58th minute for Douglas Costa, because I felt Costa was having a decent game. I can't recall exactly if he was gassed out or anything like that, but I felt like he could have gave you another 10, maybe 15 minutes, getting subbed out there in the 50th minute. Because now, as we know, Kevin Cabral did, to me, absolutely nothing with the substitutions, anything like that. And then the next sub was let's see, the 68th minute, Victor Vasquez for Samuel Grancer. The
Yep.
thing is, you lose when Victor Vasquez comes in, you lose speed, right, for
Yep.
Samuel Grancer, and I get that. And I think Vanny talked about containing the midfield a little bit, but I felt like they were winning the possession. They were winning the game and everything like that, because he made those two subs before I think even LAFC made any subs like that. And then I think in the 80th minute, I'm looking here at the timeline, that's when LAFC scored. Dennis Bouanga scored his brace.
Yep.
I think the bigger thing to me was Joveljic coming in the 84th minute. Was it the 84th minute, scores like in his first touch. And I think not seeing Joveljic get more time when he's actually scored the goals. I felt like Joveljic, if he came in the 68th or whatever, I know Greg Vanny had to change his formation, but I just felt like, look, if you give Joveljic those minutes or whatever, it kind of you been more of a threat. And then on some people's minds, like, Joveljic comes in first 20 seconds, scores a goal. And the comparison is always going to be Joveljic and Cabral, right? Because those are the subs that Vanny go. Joveljic gets 6 minutes plus extra time. Kevin Cabral got 30 plus minutes plus extra time, and you see the difference is there, right? If Galaxy wins, this is not a topic. Obviously, Galaxy lose. I just feel like Joveljic has shown so much, and Greg Vanny has ridden the Kevin Cabral train to the max, and unfortunately, it did not work out for him. So, with all that said, like I said, it almost worked out for Greg Vanny, but I think when you have a player like Joveljic that can define the game, and especially this game, I think he deserved a lot more than five minutes plus or 6 minutes plus extra time. That's just my thought on it. And
Yeah.
Greg Vanny explained why he went with the subs, but I don't know. At the end of the day, like, and everybody was behind Kevin Cabral. Credit to the fans. Everybody was behind Kevin Cabral leading up to this game, but unfortunately, he didn't really do much in this game.
Yeah. Another thing about the subs is like when they get in and when they get on isn't usually the same time because you got to wait for the stoppage. So when those like when the subs he made in the 84th minute, I think they were. Well, I think they were up earlier, but they couldn't get on. They finally got on after the goal in the 84th minute. Yeah, he might have went a little late bringing on Joveljic. But then again, bringing him on, we've talked about it all year. His runs and Cabral runs are totally different in what Vanny's looking for. Um, uh, Cabral sort of makes those runs when he's on the field. He makes those runs behind the line. He makes those runs going back on to check up sometimes. Joveljic, he doesn't make those runs, but when he gets on the field, he's thinking one thing: give me the ball, I'm gonna shoot it. And
yeah, that's the biggest difference maker. I
Yeah,
think to me.
maybe you bring him on in the 70th minute, but what do you lose out of the midfield when you bring him on? So that's one of the things you go back and forth with. I mean, all year with this team, really. When do you bring him on? How much time do you want? And then you got Cabral factor in that, and it's like one big headache, really, with especially when he's going with a 4-3-3, and then he had to change it pretty much all around there, and like the 80th minute changes on the fly there. So yeah, it was tough calls, but I guess ones he explained, which he always seems to do, sort of get inside his mind of what he's thinking about there.
Yeah, no, I completely hear because I had to ask Greg Vanny. Well, let's play what Greg Vanny had to say
Yeah.
because that's that way he can explain it, and because we have the video right here, and I think for those people that didn't see it, it was posted on LA Soccer Hub. But here we'll hear what Vanny had to say.
Could you speak on the substitutions you brought Victor Vasquez and Kevin Cabral? Can you tell us why you brought them in a little sooner than we usually see you bring in subs?
Yeah, like I said, the start of the second half, there was a stretch where I felt like they increased the intensity at which they were pressing us. I felt like our solutions to break the press weren't coming as fast as they needed to come. So then we were having to hit these balls longer, and they were eating up the balls, and so they were keeping us in our half. So for me, there's two solutions. One is to bring on somebody who can maybe stretch out the back line a little bit more. That was Kevin, to see if we could get him running behind and at least open up some space to be able to play. That was only marginally successful, I would say. So then the next part was actually just to change our shape and overload the midfield. So we went to something that we've used in the season, more like a diamond, and used Victor to overload, which we ended up getting him into some really good spots, which led to our second goal as Victor picked it up between the lines and found Dayon in a position to finish. So it was just trying to get the game back a little bit more in our vision, because I felt like we weren't successfully building out and getting a hold of the ball. It became a little bit more of a transition game, or a game where we were being pressed. So we tried to reorganize so we could get a hold of the ball, create some different reference points for them. So it worked at times, but it obviously it cost us a goal maybe.
So obviously there he talks about it, right? He brought in Cabral to stretch him out, and then he says it obviously didn't work. So then he had to switch in. He bring in Victor Vasquez to play more of a diamond there. So initially the Kevin Cabral thing goes to admit that it didn't work out, right? And that happens. Like I said, it just felt like it was too early for Kevin Cabral to come in my opinion. And I just feel like Victor Vasquez, I love what he's doing, but it's just like you completely lose so much speed. You gain possession, but you lose speed. But he did have the pass that led to Joveljic and everything like that. I do want to highlight the Joveljic goal, because to me that was I was like, oh my god. I think I almost yelled in the press box because I was like I was just shocked. Like I was just like. It was just to me it was a hell of a goal, and it was just so quick on his touches. So let's see if we have it right here. Just his touch was insane. Let's go ahead and play this.
The Galaxy tie the game a second time. Groupman, Vasquez picked up by Joveljic.
Yeah. He's pretty fearless. That's what we've known.
Absolute rocket.
Yeah.
Rocket. I just did not. I watched. I watched the video a couple of times. He took 3 touches. One touch to first touch the ball. Second one touched, and then he looks up. Third touch in the back of the net. And that to me is what Lito's is. 1, 2, 3. It's already in the back of the net.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolute golazo. Um, Obviously, I understood everything, but when Jovic has done this consistently over the time, that's why I say I understand you want to stretch and do all that with Kevin Cabral, but to me, he's just not a threat like Jovic is. And I think LAFC also know that, and what he does there, and what minute, less than a minute into the game, is absolute bananas. But yeah, I mean, credit to Jovic on that goal. The excitement. I mean, the stadium, the Bank California Stadium was just in shock. I think everybody in the press room was in shock. We're like, this is it. Hey, this is what it's going to come down to. Whoever makes the next mistake. I thought it was going to extra time. I don't know about you, Damien. I thought it was going to extra time after this, because when this goal went in, it like the momentum shifted to the Galaxy. I don't know if you remember that, but it just shifted. And the Galaxy had a couple of chances. I think they had a corner right before LAFC's corner. The momentum completely shifted. What were your thoughts after this goal went in?
Yeah, I thought that probably was all we needed to get the extra time. And going to extra time probably would have been like the perfect way to end this game. Go to extra time, maybe even go to PKs, whatever. But as you said, I mean, one mistake, and that's all. That's all the LAFC needed. Moments later, to get the winning goal there, off the corner. Galaxy couldn't clear it. I think that was it, or maybe that was the second goal. But yeah, they didn't take much. And one thing that I noticed that's sort of the way they scored their goals, the way the Galaxy scored their goals. You could tell the difference between the teams. LSC Bawanga, they had what's the other guy? Teo. He started, right? I don't remember him. I don't remember him factored into the game.
Teo, let me see. I don't think he even played. Let me
he played? I thought he started there. Let me pull it up as well.
That was Bawanga. It was Bawanga, Carlos Vela, and Chicho Arango. I think you're talking about
Arango. Yeah. But then they took Vela off, and they still have enough firepower to win. They brought in Opoku, which is like, whoa! I mean, they're bringing off some offensive threats onto the field. And I thought that's where the Galaxy sort of struggled this year, was having that threat aside from Jovic off the bench that can turn a game really.
I agree with you there.
That's one area I think they really need to address in this offseason, is to find some kind of threats off the bench that can change the game in the 80th, 85th minute. In those games where maybe Javier's not playing, or maybe he's down, maybe Jovic is struggling a little bit, they need that other option to sort of change the game. Either that's in the midfield or on the wing or at the forward spot.
Yeah, and I think it's just you mentioned that, like, the other surprising thing to me was also what was it? Also the LAFC taking out Carlos Vela and bringing Mahala. I think a lot of people were surprised about that, and that's one risk that the Galaxy, I mean, that the LAFC, that it worked. It ended up working in their favor, but unfortunately, and I will say the reason why it worked in their favor was because the final play. What Mahala did here, let me bring this up. What Mahala did in that final play on Sega Koulibaly, because it almost did not work out for LAFC bringing in Mahala for Carlos Vela, but I think this is where it paid off. I think here's a video, if we can see the final play that led to the corner. And this is Mahala. So if we see right there, this is Mahala putting pressure on Sega Koulibaly. He's right on him. And I think, to me, Carlos Vela is not doing that. He's not putting that type of pressure, especially in the 90 plus minute. Mahala has an engine. And obviously this is a corner that led to the goal. If we look right here, if we see right there, to me, when I saw this play, Damien, I was like, okay, he's gonna box him out. I don't know why Sega Koulibaly didn't box him out. It might have been tired, might have been gassed or whatever. But I think this is, this is a game of inches. This is where they lose the game. Goes to the corner kick.
I think that last little turn that Mahala did sort of forced Sega to play it out there.
Yeah, and look, this is a game of inches, and that's what led to the corner kick that obviously we know won it essentially for LAFC. And look, that's one risk, because it almost did not work out for Steve Cherundolo. for on taking out Vela, because it would have been everybody would have talked about Steve Sherman bringing out Vela from Mahala, but it paid off there. And this is the goal. This is the angle of the goal. I don't know. I saw when I posted this, a lot of people had mentioned that they wanted to blame Bond for the thing, but if you see, this is an insane angle, but you see it's an instant reaction from Bond. He tries to save. I think it was Boonga who got the hit on it, and I don't know if Victor Vasquez was there. And there's nothing you can do. You see Chicho Arango there. I don't know.
It looked like Williams and Araujo is near him on the back. Well, Julian's on the back line, and Williams is off to the right, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that ball
it was poorly defended.
The first ball was, yeah.
And then the reaction is just a reaction.
Yeah.
But you see Williams with his hands on his head. I think this angle, this view kind of gives you what you see. Maybe I think Victor Vasquez could have closed off or, put more pressure. Maybe Boonga doesn't get that shot off. Jonathan Bond, to me, did everything he could there.
Yeah.
It was just instant reaction. I don't think you could blame Bond from that. It just so happens Chicho was there. What were your thoughts when you saw this angle? I don't know if this is your first time, but what were your thoughts when you saw this angle of the goal?
Yeah, this is really one of my first times really seeing the goal. But from what I saw from the press box and watching the replay, I saw Bond first reactionary save, but it was the first ball over that they didn't do a good job with, and that leads to anything. When it's that late, you got to clear it out no matter what. Somehow somebody got to clear that ball out, that first ball out, because you never know what that second ball is going to lead to. So
exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about this, because we've seen the Galaxy grow this season, especially in the second half. How would you define the season for the Galaxy? Because obviously we know that their goal was a championship. Obviously we know there's not that, but we saw a lot of improvement. A lot of people could say it was a successful season, or some people will say it was a failure of a season, or there's a lot in between. But what are your thoughts on the Galaxy season this year?
Yeah, I guess I'm sure if you ask them man to man, they'll say it's a failure, because everybody wants to win MLS Cup. But only one team will win an MLS Cup. So if you look at where the team was the 2020 season, last season, I think they took steps in the right direction this year. First, of course, by getting into the playoffs, winning a playoff game. They did a better job keeping goals out this year compared to last year. They're on the right step. I still think they got to make some changes, make some additions. Really, there needs to be some additions probably in the midfield, sort of gain some depth in the midfield and on the wings. Figure out what you're going to do with Cabral. I mean, that's no question, really. Everybody knows. I mean, that's a big question going into the offseason. Yeah. Are you bringing back Douglas Costa? That's going to be a big question as well. And I mean, one question I would have is Ricky Puig. Do you? Right now, I'm sure you can. Somebody's going to call you and say, "Hey, that number 6 guy, we can talk about that, right?" So, do you want to keep him another year? I'm sure they're going to keep him another year to get his number, get that transfer fee even higher, really. But yeah, a lot of questions going on. I don't think they'll sell Ricky now, but maybe after next year, I'll probably sell him if he continues to play like he did this year. I mean, he only played 11, 12 games this year, and we saw how he transformed that team. I don't think there's no way he finishes his contract here with the Galaxy. I think he's back in Europe probably in 24, maybe, if things go well. But on the other end, that brings the Galaxy, I mean, should bring them a hefty transfer fee that they can strengthen the club in other areas. So yeah, big offseason coming up. A lot of questions, but not as many as they had coming into this season, I think.
Yeah, I think you have a strong foundation there for the Galaxy with Ricky Puig. Chicharito's coming back. He confirmed that. So the foundation's there, especially in the midfield. To me, you got to get rid of Kevin Cabral any way you can. Douglas Costa, I think at 4.5 is way too expensive and not worth the money at that point. Those two are the biggest question marks that the Galaxy have. If they're able to move on for those two guys and bring better players that could attack the wing like Grand Sur, but a full 90 minutes, I think you're looking at a different LA Galaxy for this season. Damian, any final words from you? First of all, I want to thank you for hopping on throughout the year on the podcast. You've been amazing. You've always hopped on when you could. So I want to thank you, my brother.
Hey, no worries, man. Hey, just gonna take a couple weeks off. I guess we got end of the year media availability coming up soon. I think maybe in a week or so, and then it's off to the off season drafts. There's a trade window coming up in first week of November. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy off season. Maybe another questions. I mean, is this the off season that Julian leaves? Maybe not. Is this the
true.
off season that Efra leaves? Maybe not. Who knows?
That's true.
So we'll see how that shakes out. There's some questions on contracts we got to figure out. That's always the toughest part is finding out who's under contract for next year and who has the option. So we'll see a lot of work to be done. So we'll see. We'll see how it all goes.
Completely agree. Well, guys, that's Damien. Damien, once again, thank you for being on. Enjoy the off season, whatever the off season that means to you. Have a drink, man. We'll definitely have to link up. Look, it was an incredible season for the LA Galaxy and how they did it. So that wraps things up for the LA Galaxy segment. For Damien, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys here.
Later.
And we're back. Sorry about that. I had to move, do a couple things. Oh.
No worries.
You there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry about that. I'm over here moving around things, and I had to run downstairs real quick. But we're talking LAFC. We have Justin. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well, man. After that incredible game, excited to be on here and talk about it because that was just another incredible El Trafico.
Yeah, it was an incredible Trafico. 3-2 thriller. You and I were sitting next to each other in the press box. A lot going on. A lot happened there. It was very intense, very, very emotional. But going into this game, talk to me because in the first half it was tied 1-1. What were your thoughts in that first half? Because for the first like 20 minutes or so, the Galaxy were controlling the game up into that Denise Bouanga goal.
Yeah, everyone's saying this that like the Galaxy were controlling up until the goal, but I actually liked what LAFC were doing better before the goal than I did after the goal because before the goal, yes, Galaxy were controlling possession, but they continued to control possession the entire game, right? They ended with a 60+% possession in the game. And so for me, what was better before the goal was that LAFC were at least countering, getting into the attacking third. When they got into the attacking third, they would play a little bit. I know their patience wasn't very good, and that improved throughout the game. But after the goal, LAFC sat back in a low block for basically the rest of the half. And whenever LAFC does that for long periods of time, 20 minutes plus, they get scored on. And it happened again. They got punished right at the end of the first half.
Yeah, and look, and in that first goal, Denise Bong was a lot of patience from LAFC, and that's one thing I liked. And I honestly, I was surprised how much time they had there to lead up to that build up goal because to me, I really felt like the Galaxy were controlling the midfield. They were controlling, kind of dictating a little bit of the game in the first 20 minutes. But then doing Denise Bouanga, we saw his physicality. We saw what he can do for this team. And to me, anytime you see a player that he can do that and what he can do, it's just pure excitement. Let's look at the goal because I think the goal was really good and credit to him. He's had now 2 big games for this LAFC side. Here we go. Let's see if we'll play. You see the pass there, and Bouanga just puts in the back of the net. And then the Bank of California Sam just goes absolute bananas. What looks like it's buffering there. There we go. But yeah, and then he does the front flip, which was just to top it off. I would see, like, it's always cool to see when you see players and you don't know who could do that, who can. But talk to me the goal and then the celebration.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's about the patience because I don't know if you can see it in that clip, but Eddie Segura just gets to drift into space. I mean, he's a center back and he just carries the ball 30 yards from goal, and then he's the one who just lays it off to Vela. Vela sees the pass. His vision's obviously fantastic. Bouanga does very well to block off, I think it's Costa, and then and finish it off clinically as he's been doing. Fantastic. And then, of course, yes, the celebration, the front flip, Aubameyang-esque, isn't it? The Gabon connection there.
Yeah, no, it was his celebrations, everything. He had a hell of a game. And he to me he's been fun to watch since ever he's came on. He obviously had the game-winning goal in Portland, and now he had a brace in this game. To me, he's been a difference maker. And that's the thing. LAFC have so many weapons, so many players that can just do so many different things for them. And look, going into the obviously the Western Conference, which we'll get into final. There's so much to like about this team and what they could do coming up this Sunday. But let's hit on a little bit more on this game, because one thing I think you and I were talking about was also in the second half. Obviously, it was tight. This game was tight for most of the game. And I think the biggest thing too was when we saw Carlos Vela get subbed off in the 78th minute from Mahala, because I think you and I were talking. We were like, Bouanga, something has to happen. Bouanga hadn't done anything. Carlos Vela hadn't really done anything. Chicho Rongo hadn't done anything in that second half. But I felt like the biggest threat was Denise Bouanga. And I was like, there's no way you take out Vela, right? So I thought Chicho Rongo was coming off. You and I were shocked to see Carlos Vela come off. Let's talk about that, because Vela comes off and we're like, what is going on? And you can even see in Carlos Vela's face, he was pretty disappointed to come off. Obviously, it's a high intense game, but give me your thoughts on that substitution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were both shocked at the time, right? We find out after it's due to cramps, which is, I guess, I mean, if he can't run, he was running a lot during the game, right? So he can get tired, but you would think for a playoff game, you got to be ready and fully prepared to go 90 plus, right? You could need to go longer than that. And if Vela's not even ready to go 90, that's a little bit worrisome. Obviously, it worked out, and the substitution, played out really quickly. Mahala involved in the play, but yeah, it is shocking to see the talisman come off. Even it's late on still, but it's surprising to see him come off, to say the least.
Yeah, look, and it would credit to Steve Chernobyl. It worked out because what should we call it? 2 minutes later, Denise Bouanga scores his goal. Ryan Hollingshead passes. Mahala just barely slides past it, and he almost could have had the goal, but then Denise Bouanga was there to tap it in. Obviously, it pays off. They go up 2-1 in the game. The game was it just got wild. There's 10 minutes to go, but it ended up paying off. And ended up paying off for Steve Chernobyl in a big way. I think the Mahala substitution it came down to the difference maker in that final play. Because if we look here, and then the final play that led to the corner kick, the Chicho goal, this is to me something Carlos Vela probably would not do in 90 plus minute. Fresh, obviously Mahala fresh legs, and what I'm referring to is Mahala putting the pressure on Sega Koulibaly. Sega Koulibaly did a poor job trying to box him out, block him off. Like I said, this is all credit to Mahala and his effort and his play that gave LAFC another chance in the final minutes. Obviously, we know what happened in those final minutes. But talk to me about this play, because I think to me this play is so significant, and obviously we now know it led them to now going to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan Bond, I believe, said after the game that he didn't blame Koulibaly for playing it behind there, that he was just, playing it safe, and he put it out for a corner. And, I played center back, right back my entire life, so I agree. I mean, it's not like a terrible idea from Koulibaly to just put it behind. It's really his defending on the ensuing corner that obviously resulted in the goal that was quite poor. But yeah, I mean, obviously it helps Mahala putting the pressure on. Is Vela gonna press that high? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not this late on, right? As you say. So it's the fresh legs of Mahala. He really is just a spark plug. As you say, he technically gets the assist on Dennis Bouanga's goal because he got a toe on it, trying to put it in the back of the net, but being unable to. And then here he gets the corner by pressing in a way that, LAC are a very high pressing team, but to do it for 90 minutes is very difficult. And substitution like Mahala with those fresh legs and his speed is very, very useful.
Yeah, look, and that to me, obviously, that's what led to the goal, and I think that's what led obviously Chicho Rongo having a special moment there. And I think this is the look when you look at LAFC, you have so many pieces off the bench, right? Mahala, Christian Teo, who didn't come on. You have so many options there, and obviously Mahala is a player who started for LAFC, who's had big goals for this club, and he's just doing anything he can. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Mahala on that final play because of what he did. Because Sega Coulibaly, you just needed one final mistake because right before that, Jovic scored the goal. In my opinion, once Jovic scored that goal to tie it 2-2, I kind of felt like the momentum shifted over to LA Galaxy, and it was essentially anybody's game because Galaxy had prior to LAFC's corner, Galaxy had a corner of their own. They obviously weren't able to convert or do anything dangerous with it. But to me, I just felt like the momentum went a shift over back to LAFC. And I was telling you, I was like, yo, if this goes to overtime or whatever, or extra time, let's go downstairs because there may be PKs or whatever. Let's go downstairs. And if we watch the PKs from down there, but it goes to that play, goes to the corner, and then obviously madness ensues at the back of California Stadium. Let's talk about that play because to me, this is I think is definitely gonna go down in history. Obviously, Chicho's goal, he ends up scoring it. Scored it in the final minutes. It's a thriller, obviously, when you score these type of goals. But as we'll see here, Count Acosta ends up passing. I think it's Denise Bouanga gets the first hit on it, and then Chicho Rongo. What were your thoughts on this final play?
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like a set piece routine from the training ground, right? He's hitting it to that back post, and Bouanga is standing there. And obviously, he hits it on the full volley and gets it really close to finishing off his hat trick for what it would have been an unbelievable story. Brace already incredible enough. And then Chicho Arango in the right place at the right time, exactly what you want your number 9 to be doing. It's great for him because, he didn't have a very good game. He wasn't very involved for the rest of the 90 minutes. But it doesn't matter if you're a number 9, if you're standing there in the 93rd minute when the ball comes to your feet. And that is exactly what Chicho Arango has done since he's been at LAFC.
Yeah, you mentioned that. No one's going to remember if you had a bad game or not. People remember goals and special moments like this because you're right. He did not have a good game. He, up until this point, Chicho Arango was, he was struggling. He was struggling, and credit to the Galaxy defense on that. But this is where they made the mistake on this corner, and this won it for them. And the Bank of California Stadium just absolutely erupted. It was bananas, and it was just insane. It was just insane to see and watch because there was a couple minutes left, but there was no way to me the Galaxy were coming back after this. And Kellen Acosta, we know how clutch he's been with the set pieces, not just for the U.S. men's national team, but also for LAFC. He gets to add this another. Well, I don't know if this would be an assist on him, but another special play in his career. But Chicho Arango, yeah, he goes there and celebrates and has an absolute blast. And let's talk about his celebration because he ended up running onto the stands and ended up kissing his wife there, which was really cool to see at the end.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just going to mention. It was fantastic celebration, and he was even crying. He had tears in his eyes. It was an emotional moment for him and everyone in that stadium, and it's just great that he was able to. His wife was right there. That he was able to go, right up into the stands and give her a hug and a kiss because that is, one of the best moments of his career, if not the best, obviously. So just fantastic to see. But as you say, yeah, the set piece, Kellen Acosta getting that, wherever you call it, a hockey assist on the goal. It was interesting because I thought, yeah, as you said, I thought we were going to extra time because LAFC have not been great on set pieces, right? Since Mamadou Fall left, really, there hasn't been a ton of set piece threat, and so it's incredible to see it being that way that LAFC find the win. But as I said, Chicho Arango being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, no, Chicharrongo had, and I want to show this one final view, because it was insane. This is like kind of like the back view, of the goal.
Mhm.
We'll see a replay there again. But yeah, I mean, you see the 32-52 go absolute bananas right there. Just it's insane. Just seeing this POV of the goal of the play. Absolute just rocking. Look, we'll see right there, bam, and just instinct and gets it inside of the net, and it's a game winner. It's like one of those you win, and you're on top. And even after we're walking, and Chicho Rongo, like he was getting, everybody wanted a photo with him, picture with him, and he did everything. He took a picture and a photo with all the fans, and I think he's different in the aspect that he will talk with the fans. He'll engage with the fans, as we've come to learn. Carlos Vela is a little bit different. He typically doesn't engage as much as like other players do, other teammates do, and a special moment for him in his career, special moment for LAFC. They get to beat the LA Galaxy, move on to the Western Conference Finals, and overall it was a hell of a game to watch. It was an exciting game to watch. It had everything, a little the emotions, the thriller at the end, the heartbreaking loss at the end, the excitement of that win, and everything else. Now we know that they're going to face Austin FC this Sunday. It's going to be a midday game. I don't know what MLS is thinking with these midday games. I'm not a fan of them, but talk to me about now, obviously, how do they carry this momentum leading up to Austin FC, who, by the way, Austin FC embarrassed them the last time they played 4-1 and has beat them twice this season.
Yeah, exactly. One of the very few teams to do that to LAFC in their history, do the double. But yeah, it creates an incredible game. I think the Western Conference final that everybody really wanted. These have been the two best teams in the Western Conference all season, and the most exciting to watch, I think, as well. Both have a very entertaining style of play, but it could be a pretty similar game to what we saw against Galaxy. I think Austin like to possess the ball just like Galaxy do. LAFC, while they can possess, they're willing to sit off and allow the opponent to possess. They will love to press Austin, who don't have a great back line, aren't great defensively, and if they can, create turnovers on that high press, it'll be a good day for LAFC. And I think that's the difference maybe between Galaxy and Austin. I think that Austin are a little bit better going forward and a little bit worse in the back, right? Because Galaxy really improved over the back end of the season defensively. But as far as just emotionally, that's going to be a big part of it, right? Because we saw in 2019 when LAFC beat Galaxy in the Western Conference semifinal after winning the Supporters Shield, same situation, right? They beat them 5-3, that sending Zlatan home and all of that excitement, and then they come back and they have to face the Sounders, and there was a drop off, right, of intensity, of emotion, and they lost that game because of it. Sounders always bring the intensity, but will they be able to keep that up against Austin this year? And that's what I asked Acosta after the game, right? And he said, this is a completely different team. Obviously, he wasn't on that team, but he's just saying, yeah, we'll be ready for this game, and I'm excited to see how it'll play out because I think it'll be a really, really fun one.
Yeah, you make a great point, because I was there at that game against the Sounders. I after the LAFC beat the Galaxy back was in 2019. That was the one team that they hadn't been able to beat essentially all season, and they were able to slay slots on there in that final game. But yeah, there was a big drop off from that LAFC 2019, from that until facing the Sounders, and obviously we know now they ultimately ended up losing at home there. So you definitely don't want that to happen this year, especially. And I think they have more weapons this year than they did obviously in the 2019 season. They're more mature. Obviously, they've gone through that heartbreak. I don't think Carlos Vela is going to want to go through that again. I think they're definitely going to be prepared to. This team has to go to the MLS Cup final. and everything like that, because it'd be catastrophic if they didn't. But Austin FC is a very, very talented team. Jerussi ended up scoring yet again against yesterday. He's obviously, I think he's going to win MVP. I know Hani Mukhtar was there, but I think Jerussi, what he's done, how far he's taken this team. Look, and Austin FC are not a really good team. And I know there's this thing on social media about the beat us mentality or this or that. I'm like, dude, you're the number 2 team in the league. You I don't know. Like, I guess whatever you need to do to use as motivation, I get it. And I guess it's, the MLS, pundits or the MLS experts or whatever they're calling it. I saw the owner on Twitter laminated a sheet of where they were going to finish. And I'm almost like, I just kind of look, to be honest, I think it's a little goofy in my opinion, because they finished last. They finished dead last, right? Austin FC. They finished dead last last season, and people wanted to fire the coach last season. Obviously, now it's a complete turnaround. But to me, I don't know. Like, I don't see Austin FC as an underdog. That's just my thing, and I think that's where it's kind of a little interesting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's an underdog against LAFC, but as a team as a whole in MLS, Austin FC are no longer underdogs. I think that's pretty clear.
They beat
Yeah,
LAFC
it's
twice this season. They're not an
yeah,
underdog.
that's true.
That's what I'm
That's true.
saying.
No, that you're right there. I mean, I think LAFC are a superior team on paper for sure. But as you say, yeah, they've beaten them twice, and yeah, the whole thing with focusing on the preseason predictions is just so funny, right? Because nobody predicted LAFC to finish first either.
Exactly.
MLS predictions are just always way off. You can go look at mine at the beginning of the season, very, very wrong
They're
as well.
predictions for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
think
in
the thing
MLS,
is to laminate the
because
the
it's like they go
laminating
look
of
at
the thing.
Tom Bogart and Matt
Yeah,
Doyle
yeah.
and all these people, and they're like they take motivation from it. As you say,
Look,
if you
if
get the
whatever you need to
motivation,
find motivation, I get, but yeah, it's a little goofy in my opinion.
no, the other thing that was funny to me is what you mentioned, right? They wanted Josh Wolf sacked last season,
They did.
right, and then 3 months into the season, 2 months into the season, even he gets a 3-year contract extension just because he's doing well. So you can't continue this underdog mentality if you think that you're so good to give your coach that you wanted to sack a few months ago a 3-year contract extension, right? Just doesn't line up to me.
Yeah, it's just interesting. But look, whatever you need to use motivation, I guess that's motivating. I wouldn't be surprised if every Austin FC player has a laminated thing of that.
In their locker.
In their locker, yeah. Typically, it's usually like you use another player or something like that. Whatever, like
Yeah. Like
it's
if
working for
another
them.
player tweets some
Yeah, it's
trash
working
talk
for
or
them. But
something.
I think
Yeah.
the owner laminating and put it out on social media it's just goofy in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
But
funny.
yeah, let's talk about this game, because look, to me this game could go either way, but I'm giving the edge obviously to LAFC. They have to beat Austin FC. What better way to beat them at home and in the Western Conference Final? They have to beat them. But we know Austin FC is not it's not that easy of a team. We all can recall I was there when they lost 4-1. But that game was done in the 58, 60th minute. It was like 3 goals. There were 3 goals up or whatever. That game was done in first 50, 60 minutes of the game. I don't think that's going to happen in this game, but how does LAFC win this game on Sunday?
Yeah, well, just going back to what I was saying, I think they're gonna allow Austin FC to have more possession. I think Austin will end the game probably 55 to 60% possession. But I think it's about playing in phases, right? This is what LAFC love to do all season. They don't have a specific we're going to control the game style of play. They don't play on the counter always. They switch up. So I think it's starting the game with some intensity and hitting Austin in the mouth, letting them know that you're there to play, obviously. Whether that means finding a goal or just creating some chances in the first 10 minutes. And then you can, drop off a little bit, allow Austin to control possession, and then you want to hit them on the counter. Just change up the way that you're playing, which is what LAFC like to do. As I said, if they sit deep for longer than 15 minutes, that's when they get in trouble, and they need to be able to transition out of that, because they're not a team that's going to control the ball the entire game. They don't want to do that. And so when you don't want to do that, you also have to be able to transition out of your defensive shape, and that's where it's been problematic. That's where it became problematic against Nashville, and was problematic against Galaxy at points right at the end of the first half. So yeah, I just think it's about that, and then of course the high pressing, right? Austin are not good defensively. I think that if you can obviously hit them on the counter, but then if you can press them really high, it'll really benefit LAFC to be able to force the long ball and potentially win balls in the final third, and then create chances off of those.
Yeah, look, I agree with you on the high pressing. Just the wingers and the people that LAFC have up top are just superior to potentially any defense. I would say any defense in MLS. But yeah, I think also too the addition of Denis Bouanga, he didn't play the last game against Austin FC, where they got smacked around. I think he's obviously shown he's already a difference maker. Some people were trying to compare him to a previous player. I don't know why they were trying to do that. I'm not going to mention any names, hurt any feelings over here. But to me, Denis Bouanga is far superior.
I just knew you were going to. There's no way we were going to get through this without a
I was trying.
There's no way. All right, Gio, move on. Let's go.
All right. Well, I got to explain it now to the listeners. I got to explain it now.
All right.
I got to explain because we can't just laugh and not let them know. So we had just quick story. Well, before I finish, quick story. And then Justin can say his part. So in the Twitter space, I had a Twitter Spaces this past week leading up till Traffico on Thursday, and Justin along the lines, he started the podcast. He can say I recall what he said, but now his words have switched up. But he, for whatever reason, I don't know why, in his right mind, he decided to bring up Brian Rodriguez because I didn't even ask him about Brian Rodriguez anything. He brings him up and says, for what I recall, he says that Brian Rodriguez and Denis Bouanga are the same player, and I was like, "Stop, Justin! Don't do this." Blah blah, this and that. That happens, whatever, and then he brings it up again. I think after the game or something like that. Or I said something. I was like, "Oh, see, you try to say that Denis Bouanga is the same player as Brian Rodriguez, blah blah." And then he said, "This is after the game." I was like, "Justin, I was telling you." And then Celso was there, and then we talked about it, and then people were tweeting. Like I think Michele tweeted. It was just perfect how it lined up because Michele had tweeted. And we were having this conversation. I look on Twitter, Michele is like, "Whoever thought, I don't know, Brian," or people were comparing Brian to whatever. Yeah. Or he said something along the lines, just kind of roasting whoever said that, and I show it, and I see Justin on it. So that's why I'm laughing whenever I bring up Denis Bouanga because of that, and I'm just giving him a hard time. But Justin, say your piece, and we can move on.
Okay, quickly we can. Okay, Gio loves to misquote me apparently, but this is why it's important to listen to the words that people say, right? Because there's a difference between saying.
Well, I was saying a couple people did not agree with you. I'm not misquoting everybody. I'm giving you a chance. I'll stop. I'll be quiet, but I'll let you speak.
No, you're good. There's a difference between saying that somebody's the same player and saying they're a similar player, right? And so I do believe Denis Bouanga is a similar player to Brian Rodriguez. Like I've always said, and you can go back to what I talked about when Denis Bouanga arrived, said they are similar players, but Denis is a much better finisher. He's much more clinical, and he's better at looking for the final pass than Brian Rodriguez is. But they are similar. They both play on left wing. They're both love to run a lot. They both love to high press. They both will drop deep and defend. They both are very, very direct players who like to take players on 1v1 and go direct at the goal. These are all things that they share characteristically, and they are similar players in that manner. Does that mean they are the same level? Absolutely not. And I have always said that. You can go back and look at what I wrote about when Denis arrived.
When you say similar, it just, to me, they're not similar. It's just
in their style of play, they are similar. It's just that one is a lot better at doing so than the other.
The biggest difference for me is Denis Bouanga is a physical presence.
That is
Brian is not a physical presence, and Denis Bouanga has already had 2 magical moments for LAFC in a short amount of time. Brian Rodriguez didn't do that this early, and Denis Bouanga is just a more mature player, an overall better player. They play the same position. That's, to me, is the only reason. The only thing that they're similar in is playing that position. But outside of that, it's just hard for me, and that's why I'm giving you a hard time.
It's okay.
And you've been
the way that they go on.
and we the
The
reason
way that they
why I
play is similar. That's all. That's all. It's the way that the style of play. But Denny Bouanga is a much better player than Brian Rodriguez. There's no doubt
the
about that.
reason why it's so funny to me is because you brought him out of nowhere that day, and I was like, I didn't even, I don't know why he went that way. Like I brought up Dennis Bong, and you gotta be
Because
like
if I
Brian
talk about his
Rodriguez.
style
I
of
was
play,
like, no.
because there's a lot of people who only watch MLS and they don't watch European football. They only focus on MLS and maybe even only LAFC. So when Denny Bouanga arrived, the best way that I could explain him to these people is to say he's similar to Brian Rodriguez, but he's better. And that's how I explain it, because I think he is a similar player, but he's just better.
Okay, well we'll leave it at that, and I'll stop giving you a hard time. But
It's all good.
even but look, to me, at the end of the day, that will be the difference maker for LAFC going up to Austin FC because of what he did to the Galaxy, what he did in Portland, and I expect him. I don't think anybody will be able to stop him. Because even when I was sitting next to you, I was like, they need to give the ball to Dennis Bouanga. He's been such a, every time the ball goes to his side, that something good has come of it. And I think if he does what he does, LAFC is gonna win this game. And I know they're gonna want to punish him. And I think, after getting smacked around 4-1, there's no way you don't want to come back around and don't want to smack them up in your home field. Let's finish off with this. How do you think this game finished? Give me a score prediction. Who scores these goals? And then give me your thoughts on the midday game too, because it's absolutely bananas.
Yeah, midday is so interesting to me because then you're having the West Coast play before the East Coast, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Push them both to night games, and then you can have the East Coast play their night game, and then you have the West Coast play their night game right after it. I think that works out pretty well and pretty logically. So I don't know why that isn't the case. Luckily, it's not going to be too hot, I don't think, in LA on next Sunday. I think it's 75 or something like that. So it shouldn't be too bad. It could have been worse, but yeah, I don't really understand it either. Maybe because it's a Sunday night, they don't want to play a game because people go to work Monday morning. I'm not sure. Regardless, yeah, I think it would be better to have it at night. But as far as score predictions, as far as how I think the game's going to go, yeah, I explained the game flow that I think. I expect LAFC to find a goal on the counter, find a goal on the press, and yeah, I just don't think Austin are that solid defensively. I think they've conceded the highest XG of any team in the league this year. It could be, I think that's right. But yeah. So I'm gonna go with a 2-goal LAFC win, either 3-1 or 4-2. But I'm gonna go 4-2 because I think that playoff games are generally higher scoring.
No, it's fair enough. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 3-1, something like that. Two goal lead over the Austin FC. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's unfortunate it's a midday game. I don't know why. We'll see what happens moving forward. Hopefully, we can start getting some night games. And all these playoff matchups. But yeah, no, thank you, Justin. Thank you for hopping on. Being a good sport of me, giving you a hard time. But that's gonna wrap things up. Definitely give Justin a follow. There's his tag right there. JSR Football on Twitter. Definitely gonna follow him. Does a great job covering the team. He's always on the press conference. So definitely give him a follow. Check him out. So for Justin, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.